A method actor told Clint Eastwood, "My artistic process can't be rushed after showing up late for the third day." What Clint did next in front of the entire crew became legendary in Hollywood. It was October then 1992, on the set of Unforgiven, in the remote Alberta Badlands of Canada. Clint Eastwood was directing and starring in what would become one of his most critically acclaimed films, a revisionist western that would win 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. The production was tight, disciplined, and running slightly ahead of schedule, exactly how Clint he'd built his reputation as a director who respected budgets, valued crew time, and finished films efficiently without sacrificing quality. His sets were known for being professional, focused, and drama-free. Then they hired someone we'll call Derek Matthews. Matthews was a respected stage actor from New York who'd recently gained attention for an intense performance in an off-Broadway production. He'd studied at prestigious acting programs, trained in various method techniques, and considered himself a serious artist. His agent had pushed hard to get him a supporting role in Clint's film, a key character who appeared in several important scenes. Clint's casting director had reservations. "He's talented," she told Clint, "but he has a reputation for being difficult, very method, very particular about his process." "How difficult?" Clint asked. "He spent 3 months living homeless for a role once, refused to break character between takes, that kind of thing." Clint considered this. He appreciated actors who took their craft seriously, but he also knew there was a difference between dedication and self-indulgence. "Give him the part," Clint decided, "but make sure he understands how we work here." Matthews signed the contract, arrived in Alberta, and attended the first production meeting. Clint laid out his expectations clearly. 6 a.m. call times when scheduled, professionalism on set, efficiency, and shooting. The crew worked hard and Clint expected actors to match that energy. Matthews nodded through the meeting, but seemed distracted, as if the logistics of film were beneath him. He was here to create art, not punch a time clock. The first day Matthews was scheduled to shoot was a Monday, call time 6 a.m. The location was a remote ranch an hour from base camp, and the morning light was crucial for the scene they needed to film. At 6 a.m., the crew was ready. Cameras positioned perfectly for the shot. Lights set to capture the golden morning glow. Other actors in costume and makeup having been in the chair since 5 o'clock a.m. Clint was in his director's chair reviewing the shot list, mentally rehearsing the day's work. The entire machine was oiled and ready to run, but Derek Matthews' trailer door remained closed, dark, silent. At 6:30, the first assistant director knocked politely. No answer. At 6:45, he knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. The crew began shifting uncomfortably, checking watches, whispering. This wasn't how Clint Eastwood sets worked. At 7 o'clock a.m., after multiple attempts, Matthews finally opened the door, still in his street clothes, hair uncombed, looking genuinely annoyed at being disturbed rather than embarrassed about being late. "I'm preparing," Matthews said, his tone suggesting the AD was interrupting something sacred. "My process requires deep internal work before I can inhabit the character. This can't be rushed. This isn't some sitcom where you just put on a costume and say lines. This is serious acting." The ad explained they were losing the morning light that the entire crew was waiting. "Art doesn't work on a schedule," Matthews replied, closing the door. Clint, informed of the situation, made a decision. "We'll shoot around him." Move to scene 14. The crew scrambled to reposition for a different scene, losing valuable time and the perfect morning light they'd specifically scheduled for Matthews' scene. By the time Matthews emerged at 8:30 a.m. ready to work, they'd lost 2.5 hours. Clint said nothing. He simply adjusted the shooting schedule, got Matthews through his scenes efficiently, and moved on. But he was watching. The second day, Matthews was scheduled. The call time was again 6 a.m. for the same crucial reasons. Same remote location requiring an hour drive from base camp. Different scene, but equally dependent on morning light. Same 75 crew members who'd woken up at 4:30 a.m. to be ready on time. At 6 a.m., Matthews' trailer was dark and silent. At 6:30, still dark. The crew was getting visibly frustrated now. Yesterday had been frustrating enough, but a pattern was emerging. At 7 a.m., the AD knocked with less patience than the day before. Matthews answered, wearing a bathrobe, sipping coffee as if he were on vacation. "I told you yesterday," Matthews said, clear irritation in his voice now, as if the ad was the problem. "My artistic process requires time. I need to meditate, to center myself, to find the character's emotional truth. This isn't television where you just show up and hit marks. This is cinema. This is art. We have 75 people waiting," the ad said carefully. "Then they'll learn patience," Matthews replied. "Great performances can't be manufactured on an assembly line." He finally emerged at 8:45, over 2.5 hours late again. When the ad explained to Matthews that they'd have to skip his scene and shoot it later, losing another perfect lighting window, Matthews shrugged. "If the light isn't right, the light isn't right," he said, as if this vindicated his lateness rather than being caused by it. Clint watched this unfold from his director's chair. He said nothing to Matthews. He just adjusted the schedule again, shot what they could, and noted the pattern developing. That evening, Clint's producer approached him. "We need to talk about Matthews. 2 days, 2 major delays. We're losing budget and schedule." "I'm aware," Clint said. "Should we warn him? Threaten to fire him?" "No threats," Clint said. "One more day. Let's see if this is who he is." The third day Matthews was scheduled was critical. It was his biggest scene. A dramatic confrontation that required precise timing with the other actors, complex camera movement, and specific natural light that they'd get for maybe 90 minutes at most. They'd scheduled extra crew, brought in additional equipment, and coordinated multiple departments around this shoot. Call time 6 a.m. sharp. At 5:45 a.m., the entire crew was ready. Actors in position, cameras prepped, lights set, sound recording, everyone waiting for Derek Matthews. At 6 a.m., his trailer was closed. At 6:15, still closed. At 6:30, the AD knocked. No answer. At 6:45, louder knocking, nothing. Clint stood up from his director's chair and walked over to Matthews' trailer himself. The entire crew watched. This was unprecedented. Clint directing was usually invisible from his chair, quietly efficient. Him walking across set to personally address an actor meant something significant was happening. Clint knocked on the trailer door. Hard 3 sharp raps that echoed across the quiet set. After a long moment, Matthews opened the door. He was in his bathrobe again, holding a cup of tea, looking annoyed at the interruption. "We're ready for you," Clint said quietly. "I'm preparing," Matthews replied, his tone suggesting this should be obvious. "My artistic process can't be rushed. I need to access deep emotional memories for this scene. It takes time. It takes." "What time was your call?" Clint interrupted, his voice still quiet but with an edge. "Now all times are administrative convenience," Matthews said, launching into what was clearly a prepared speech about art. "Real acting, serious acting requires going to places that can't be scheduled. I'm not some television actor who hits their marks and delivers lines. I'm creating a character from the inside out. That process." "What time?" Clint repeated, not asking now, but stating, his quiet voice somehow carrying more authority than shouting ever could. "Was your call?" Matthews blinked, thrown off by the interruption to his prepared speech about artistic integrity. 6, but that's just at 7 a.m., Clint said, each word deliberate and final. "You're an hour late. Third day in a row. 75 people have been waiting for you. People who got here on time despite having the same early call you did. Great art requires sacrifice," Matthews said, recovering his confidence and launching back into his justification. "Those people are being paid to wait. That's literally their job. My job is to create something transcendent, something that will last beyond this production schedule. You, of all people, should understand that real artistry can't be confined to pack your things," Clint said, cutting through the speech like a knife. Matthews stopped mid-sentence, mouth open. "Excuse me. Pack your things," Clint repeated, his voice still that same quiet rasp that had become famous in westerns. "You're fired. There's a car waiting to take you back to Los Angeles. You have 30 minutes to be out." The entire crew had gone silent. 75 people frozen watching this unfold. Matthews laughed a nervous sound. "You can't fire me. We're in the middle of production." "You need me for no," Clint said simply. "We need someone professional, someone who respects other people's time, someone who understands that film is collaborative. That's not you. Pack your things." "This is insane," Matthew said, his voice rising now. "I'm creating art here. I'm giving you the performance of a lifetime. You can't fire someone for taking their craft seriously." "I'm not firing you for taking craft seriously," Clint said. "I'm firing you for being late 3 days in a row and showing no respect for the 75 professionals who've been waiting for you while you drank tea in your bathrobe." "My process? Your process?" Clint interrupted. "Involves being on set when you're supposed to be on set. If you can't do that, you can't work here. Pack your things." Matthews looked around at the crew, perhaps expecting support or sympathy. He found none. 75 people who'd been up since 4:30 a.m., who'd driven an hour to this location, who'd been standing ready for over an hour, just stared back at him with zero sympathy. "You're making a huge mistake," Matthews said to Clint. "I'm the best actor you'll ever work with. You're letting ego destroy what could have been 30 minutes, Clint said, cutting him off. Then he turned and walked back to his director's chair. Matthews stood in his trailer doorway for another moment, apparently waiting for Clint to change his mind or for someone to intervene. Neither happened. Finally, he went back inside and slammed the door. Clint turned to his first ad. "Call the actor we screen tested who came in second. See if he can be here tomorrow. Reschedule Matthews' scenes for next week." Then he addressed the crew. "We're moving to scene 22. Let's not waste the morning." The crew erupted into activity, reorganizing for a different scene, grateful to be actually working instead of waiting. Several crew members were smiling. A few were trying not to laugh. Within 25 minutes, Derek Matthews emerged from his trailer with his bags, looking furious. A production van was indeed waiting to take him back to Los Angeles. He climbed in without speaking to anyone and left. Clint didn't watch him go. He was already focused on the next shot. The story spread through Hollywood before Matthews' van reached the airport. Clint Eastwood fired an actor for being late, and citing artistic process became the talk of the industry within hours. By the next day, it was in the trades. Matthews' agent tried to spin it as creative differences or scheduling conflicts, but too many crew members had witnessed what happened. The truth came out. Matthews had been fired for being unprofessional and hiding behind artistic process as an excuse. The impact on Matthews' career was immediate and devastating. Other directors who'd been considering him suddenly weren't interested. Producers asked pointed questions about his reliability. Studios put him on unofficial difficult actor lists. Within a year, Matthews was doing regional theater again. The promising film career that his agent had worked so hard to build completely destroyed by 3 late arrivals, and one conversation with Clint Eastwood. The actor Clint hired to replace Matthews showed up 15 minutes early every day, knew his lines perfectly, and delivered an excellent performance that contributed to the film's eventual success. Unforgiven went on to win 4 Academy Awards. Clint won Best Director and Best Picture. The film is now considered one of the greatest westerns ever made. Derek Matthews is remembered when he's remembered at all as the actor who was fired from Unforgiven for showing up late and lecturing Clint Eastwood about artistic process. Years later, in an interview about directing, Clint was asked about the incident. His response was characteristically brief. "Film sets require discipline. Not because of some authoritarian philosophy, but because hundreds of people are coordinating complex work. When one person decides their process is more important than everyone else's time, they're not an artist. They're just selfish." But the crew members who were there tell a more detailed story. They talk about how 75 people had been standing ready at 6 a.m. How they'd lost the perfect morning light 3 days in a row. How Matthews had dismissed their time as unimportant while he meditated in his bathrobe. And they talk about how Clint's firing of Matthews wasn't angry or dramatic. It was matter-of-fact delivered in that quiet voice with the same calm he brought to every directing decision. "Pack your things. Car's waiting. 30 minutes. The incident became legendary not because it was loud or theatrical, but because it was the opposite. It was Clint simply drawing a line. Professionalism matters. Your time doesn't count more than 75 other people's time. Art doesn't excuse disrespect. To this day, artistic process can't be rushed is a phrase you don't want to use on a Clint Eastwood set. And showing up late while everyone else is ready is a career mistake you only get to make once. If this story of accountability and respect moved you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to remember that talent doesn't excuse unprofessionalism, and real artists respect the people they work with. Have you ever seen someone confuse self-indulgence with dedication? Share your story in the comments.